Hey, what's up guys? Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Now, I wanted to make a quick video on a few reasons why I'm going to be changing to the Canon 90D. Now, as you guys probably know, it did just get announced. I actually made a video a few weeks ago saying that it was going to be announced, and most of the things that I talked about, all the rumors and specs and things like that, they really came true. So in this video, I just want to have a very relaxed, calm and kind of excited talk about the Canon 90D, what I'm looking forward to, and the reasons why I'm going to be upgrading to the Canon 90D. Now, before we jump into this video, I quickly want to send a big thanks to my friends over at Skillshare who are being awesome and sponsoring this video, which greatly helps out this channel. And guys, if you haven't heard of Skillshare yet, or if you've never signed up, I actually really recommend it. Now, I know a lot of you might not even own a DSLR yet, so a course I would recommend, and I even just took, was called How to Take Pro Photos on Your Phone. It's only 50 minutes, and it was actually really good. Skillshare is also more affordable than most learning platforms out there, and annual subscription's about $10 a month. So guys, if you want to check it out, I'll put a link in the description box below, and you can start from there. But anyway, let's now talk about the Canon 90D and why I'm going to be getting it. So I'll just give you a little bit of a backstory first. I've been using a Canon 70D for a really long time. In fact, I'm still using a Canon 70D to this date. Now, as you guys probably know, maybe 2.5 years ago, the Canon 80D came out and I made a lot of videos on it. And I had the opportunity, obviously, to keep the Canon 80D if I needed to, but I actually found no reason for me to kind of keep the 80D because the 70D was always working really well. It's like a real workhorse of a camera, and it just works fantastically. For what I do, I don't need the headphone jack, and that's pretty much the biggest reason why I would have upgraded to the 80D, because I would have been able to monitor the video. But the thing is, it's just me taking video here, it's generally going to be a relatively normal kind of sound. I'm not doing run and gun kind of shooting where I need to be always monitoring the sound. So the 70D did pretty much everything the 80D did as well. And I don't need like things like slow motion as well, because again, I'm not generally shooting in slow motion. I'm generally shooting in 30 frames per second. So the 90D's out. Let's talk about a few of the specs that I really like about it and why I'm going to be probably upgrading to the 90D. So the first thing is that we've got 4K, which is obviously awesome. Now Canon have had 4K in a lot of their other cameras previously, such as the Canon M50, and then higher up cameras as well. But they've always had a fatal flaw, and that is a crop. A significant crop when they're in 4K. So essentially, if you guys know, the Canon 70D, 80D, 90D, they're all APS-C cameras, which means that they have a 1.6 times crop off a full frame. And when they were shooting in 4K, like on the M50, for example, I think it was going up to like almost doubling that as well when you're shooting in 4K. So it was really almost unusable, and there was no real reason to be kind of wanting to use that versus shooting in 1080p, which didn't have a crop, because you really had to have a really wide angle lens, and it kind of just defeated the purpose. On the 90D, we've got 4K uncropped, which is just going to be fantastic. It's going to be really nice, and from what I've seen from the test footage and stuff, I think it's going to be really quite good. The other thing in 4K, and this is kind of what we were hoping, well, what I was talking about in my last video, is that we were going to have dual pixel autofocus in it. And from what I've seen in the reviews, I've looked at DP Review and Jared Pollan stuff, it looks like we do have dual pixel autofocus in the 4K as well, which is just fantastic. Please let me know if I'm wrong on any of these, because I've only just had a kind of a quick look at all this, but I do think that we are going to have 4K with dual pixel autofocus. For me, that's probably the most important thing. I film everything myself. And, even though I'm kind of just at the moment, for example, I'm just sitting here, if I move back and forth like this, with dual pixel autofocus, I don't have to worry about being in focus. In fact, if you watch my last video, I went in and out of focus all the time. And that's because I was experimenting with some things. But this here just works fantastically, and it's definitely something that I've come to love. And again, that's one of the reasons why the Canon 70D was always going to be good for me. And it's funny because just recently, literally 3 weeks ago, I just invested in a brand new Panasonic GH5 with the 12 to 32mm f2.8 lens. And I was like, well, that's it. I'm going to move over to Panasonic. And I really loved the camera. I love it, and I still have it. It's in my room right now. But I can't bring myself to use it for the videos that I make. And the reason is because the autofocus is just terrible. It works okay if you're behind the camera, or if you've got someone behind the camera, because you can always be kind of tapping on it, or you can just use manual focus. But for what I do, it was completely unreliable to use for kind of like a sitting piece here, because I would actually have to, pull in and do manual focus like that. Whereas with like a Canon 80D or a 70D, I can just sit here, turn on the camera, and I know it's going to pick up my face no matter what. And hopefully it's not going to be hunting. By the way, I'm in a kind of new area right now, and I think it looks pretty good. I've got a big window right here with kind of a blind as well, and it produces a really nice light. With the Sigma 18 to 35 millimeter lens, I think the Canon 70D, 80D, and soon to be 90D is going to be a really nice little setup. Now, another thing I wanted to bring up, and I'm interested in, and I'm not exactly sure about, is that we have 1080p, obviously, but it's in 120 frames per second. So for a lot of people, that's going to be absolutely awesome. We're going to have, good quality slow motion, hopefully. 120 frames per second looks really great. My issue is that, does this mean that with the Canon 90D, in order to shoot 1080p, the only option that I'm going to have is with 120 frames per second? For me, I would like to have the option to be able to shoot in, say, 30 frames per second in 1080p. I don't always want to be shooting in 4K for a few reasons. Obviously, you're going to be having larger file sizes, and it's maybe a little bit more difficult to edit. So that's definitely something that I'm interested in. Hopefully, we do have more options, but from what I can tell, 1080p is only in 120 frames per second, and I don't want to be shooting in 120 frames per second all the time. Now, going back to the dual pixel autofocus, I'm pretty sure we have eye autofocus in the Canon 90D now as well, which will be really nice, mainly because when we're going to be using really shallow depth of lens, when we're going to be shooting at wide apertures, we're going to be having a very shallow depth of field. For example, I'm shooting at f1.8 now on my Sigma 18 to 35, and sometimes with the autofocus, it's going to get my face in focus, but not my eyes. So having that eye autofocus would be really quite good. And the other thing is that we're going to be having a headphone jack, and again, if you guys are coming from the Canon 80D, it's not going to be a big deal for you because you've already had it, but I've got a Canon 70D, so I'm very excited. Now, the other thing is that, I was considering also changing either to the Canon M50. In fact, I've got a Canon M50 right here. I've got the M50, and I was thinking, this would be a really nice little camera to use. The other thing, the only reason I'm probably not going to now, especially because the Canon 90D has just been announced, is that I've already got a lot of lenses, and they're all kind of native lenses that work really well with it. I don't really want to have to change all of my lenses just to be able to change a system. The other camera I was looking at was the EOS R, and again, you're either going to have to use adapters or you're going to have to get brand new lenses, and it can kind of be kind of expensive. And one last thing that I was really excited about with the Canon 90D, and this is something that's kind of only relevant for me now because I'm planning on doing a little bit more live streaming and having a new kind of setup where I want to be using a thing called the CamLink or CamLink 4K. It's by Elgato, and essentially what it allows you to do is connect your DSLR, like a Canon 90D, up to your computer, so you can use it as a webcam. It does seem like the Canon 90D is going to have clean HDMI out, which will be fantastic. Definitely something kind of new for Canon. I know a lot of other cameras have it, like the Panasonic GH5 and even the G7 has it. But essentially what it's going to allow me to do is have my camera and have a very clean feed, so we won't get that little box and all the other data and stuff like that. So, I actually think the Canon 90D will be a very, very good camera if it does have this clean HDMI out for streaming, because of that awesome autofocus, because of how easy Canons are to use. It will be a fantastic camera for that. So I'm super excited. Are you guys excited? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm sure a lot of you guys are probably going to be ordering it. If you do, I'll put a link in the description box below to an Amazon affiliate link. It can help the channel a little bit, but you don't have to buy it from there. But anyway, you can pre-order it now. You can also get it from B&H if that suits you as well. But I'll be getting one in. I'll make some videos on it if you guys would like. Let me know what kind of videos you'd like me to do with the Canon 90D, because I'm just, I'm excited to be having a new camera out and, kind of like fanboying over a new camera, which actually seems like it might be a bit of a hit with Canon, which will be, a long time in the making. I think the Canon 80D was probably one of their last good cameras, and, that was 2 or 3 years ago, so it's quite a long time. Hopefully you guys like this new setup as well. It might be a little bit overexposed right now, but I think it should be okay. And using a new mic as well, and hopefully it sounds quite good. That's it. Thank you guys for staying on the channel. I've been away in Australia, by the way, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, visiting my family, so taking it a bit slow with the uploads, but I'll always jump back on. And it's nice to hear from you guys whenever I do. Now, Hopefully the next time I see you, I'll have a Canon 90D in my hands, or I'll probably do a video before then, but I'll be very excited to get this Canon 90D as well. That's it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.